Well, welcome back to the home of Snow King 55. Looking at my cab. Soon will be on the floor. I'm going to make a little platform with some wheels on it. I'm going to set it on and we're going to bring it down to the floor and set it out here, more than likely right in this area here. Sawhorses, and the little table will go away and that cab will sit there. Anyway, I brought you back, give you a little update of what I've been doing. I guess the last video showed you putting the truck engine and transmission in place and getting it bolted down. I'll show you some of the things that I had to do to get it to fit, because there is a mount that goes right there in the bottom of that transmission, and I could not get it to fit because the back of the engine and transmission were tilted like this, you know, exaggerated, but it was like this. So the problem was, is I put the front mount on. In this particular case, with this truck with that 4-speed, the mount has got to go to the bottom. I had the mount sitting, you can see this is where the frame and then the bottom of the engine mounting plate, and it's just a bolt. Now underneath that there's a gap, and you can kind of see that gap right there, because up underneath, let me get you a shot up underneath here, there is the mount. Remember that metal cover that went over it? Well, it goes on the bottom. I found out that was the only way that I could get that engine to sit flat enough so that I could put that rear mount in place. So, and I could not get in behind that with the nuts, so I had to take off my pulley. In order to put it back on, I had to put it in the oven for about 20-25 minutes at 450 degrees to get everything really hot, because it's a press fit. It does not have a bolt that goes in the center. It just presses on, and then once it cools, it locks itself in place. So we got that done. Okay, I got my belt back on. I went ahead and I installed the manifolds. You can see the intake and exhaust. I got those all put into place. I temporarily screwed a temperature gauge into my mount, because when I start the engine up I want to regulate the temperature. I got the pans put in. These were kind of a challenge. These they're dust pans is what they call them, and there's one on each side, and those things probably should have been installed before the engine went in. It would have made it a whole lot easier, but I had to finagle around everything to get them to work, and finally I got it, and so that is on. Starter is on. Battery is in, and everything works. I'll show you. This is your starter pedal right here. This sticks up through the firewall of your truck inside your cab, and then you step on this, and as you watch, it works. So what I did is I recommend taking and putting your ground straps to your frame, which I did. You can see, and then I took the ground strap from the frame over to the battery, which I did. They say that's the best setup for a 6-volt system. So, and the wire is, I forget what aught it is, but it's the correct gauge for a 6-volt system. And you can see I've got the plugs in, so it was turning it pretty good enough that it will start. I went through and adjusted my valves, or my rocker arms I should say, not the valve, well I guess it's the valves, but adjusted those at a cold setting, obviously because it hasn't been fired. So those will have to be readjusted. Got the coil in place and the starter switch. This is the starter switch. This is how you just turn this on. That gives juice to the, I'll have to run a line from that. I'll have to look to see how to do that, but there's got to be a hot wire that runs somewhere off of one of these terminals over to your battery, and then that will send juice to your starter switch. You turn it off and on there, and then that sends juice up to here. And underneath this cap there's a wire that fastens onto a stud on the coil, and that sends juice to your coil. I've got a cap on it right now, but there's a wire that goes onto there to where your distributor is supposed to go, which is right there. But there's no distributor yet. And I'll show you why in a minute. Also, we got all our brake lines run. I'll show you, get me on the other side. It's probably easier to see because I ran them all down the right-hand side of the frame there. So you can kind of see the brake line run up through there. I ran them down through the frame. There were a couple members there to go through, and so there was a hole in there. I put a rubber grommet in it and run it through that grommet through the hole. It goes behind the battery and into the T, and there is a grommet right there. You can kind of see it. That T then goes over to the master cylinder. And I played around for about an hour and a half, 2 hours yesterday trying to bleed the system. I already bled out the master cylinder and it seemed to work, but bleeding out the system I couldn't get the master cylinder to give enough pressure to really push out any fluid. So I ordered a new one. This is the original. I rebuilt it, but when I rebuilt it, the inside of it was pitted. I thought maybe I could put some JV weld on the inside to fill the pits, and then I ran some hone down through it. It didn't work. So anyway, I got one of those coming, and that will complete my brake system then. But anyway, you can see I had to put my lines that they gave me in the kit just weren't long enough for everything, so I had to splice a line in there. They give you fittings to splice it, which I did. Got a hanger there. Comes up over, goes through the frame area, which is all open in the back there, over to your back line. So that's done. Yet to be done is the emergency brake lines, or rods I should say, that go up to here. And these will, rods welded on the end of that one, as well as the end of this one. And then this little hook here is where a spring goes, and that spring will be fastened to that, and it'll go all the way back and fasten onto this frame somewhere. Probably right to that little hole right there. Anyway, that's what gives you pressure on your handle. Let me see if I can zoom down here. Okay. And your handle, it is back like that, and then, well, that was pulled back. That is in the relaxed mode right there. You see. So, and then when you pull it back, you can see it pulls on that. It'll pull on that spring and cable, so there'll be some pressure on the handle to pull it back. But then you just push in on the handle, and it'll automatically want to push it back forward again. So we have that taken care of. Yeah, that was about it. I had to gravity bleed these lines. Well, I think a lot of it was because of that master cylinder, but yeah, I just rigged up a thing and run all the air out pretty much in my system before I got to starting to bleed it. But I had leaks everywhere, and I believe I got them all fixed up. What happened was, if you look at this, there's these crush washers. They call them banjo washers right there, and there's one back in behind it. I used old ones. They leaked. Every one of them leaked, so I went up to O'Reilly's and bought a pack of 10 of them, and the right diameter, replaced them, and that stopped my leaks. Had a leak at the T-fitting. I took everything apart and put it back together, and it sealed. So that was good. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at on my brake lines. I got my dust pans in. The engine's mounted, good and solid. Manifolds are on, and the next is the distributor. And what I did with the distributor, because it was pretty old and grungy, is I took it apart. And there's all the pieces. Took and painted this up yesterday. So we will start assembling today. Everything will go back in. Checked for slop in my shaft inside the housing, and it was good and firm. There is a wear mark right here, but I don't know if you can see that or not. Kind of can. What rides in that is this little deal here. This little round deal rides right on that spot, like that. And then that's where your grease cup goes. Your grease cup threads into the end of there, as you can see. And there's a spring that goes in there. And then this thing threads in on top of the spring. And you fill that full of grease. And you fill this cap full of grease, and you screw that on there. And the tighter you screw it, the more it forces grease through the hole on the end of it, through the spring. And I don't know what this guy does, but it allows that grease to be fed periodically to the shaft, so that and then you can see the grooves here where it will actually take and spread the grease around the shaft. So, but it was doing its job. I mean, this part from here to here, it's got no wear, and from here down, there's no wear. It's just where that little disc, that little puck right there, was rubbing. Did a little bit of wear on it. It's not super bad, but it's I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. But anyway, the advance mechanism all works like it should. Everything's clean. I have new points, cap, rotor, wires, condenser. Don't know whether I'm going to use this condenser or not. That's well, it is made in the USA, so that's a good thing, I guess. But this one is the old one. Look at this. You can see it here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It says Delco, made in the USA, and then it says Retro, R-E-T-O, I think, underneath it, the made in the USA. So, yeah, it was made by Delco, a replacement, years ago. So, yeah, like some guys have said, some of the old parts, if they're not broke, don't replace them. So, I don't know if it's broke. I don't know. So I'm going to put the new one in, and we'll go with that. This is the other mechanism. This is my vacuum advance. I have got to figure out what I'm going to do here, how this thing works. I don't have a clue yet, but I'll show you what. This is why I bought this other engine. And I didn't bring a light. Right down in there is a distributor with a vacuum advance all fastened on in place. So I'm going to take and bring this engine out and take a close look at that before I install the new rebuilt distributor in my engine. But that's why I purchased this, for to look at different things like that. You know, I've got another distributor if I need it. I've got another coil. I have another carburetor if I need it. Manifolds are all good. And also, I was looking at the engine, and if I want to start it, I want to put the radiator in. But I've got to get plugs for here and here. This is for your heater. And they got to put plugs into there, and then you run your, you know, your lines back through your firewall into your thing. Well, right now we're not going to be doing that, but I need to put a plug in there, and it'll have a nipple on it, and I'll just stick a hose over it with a bolt in it or something like that. But I thought, well, I'm going to have to purchase those. And then I thought, wait a minute, does this engine have it? And right there they are, both of them. So that's going to save me running around looking for them. Just looking right now, I do have a hose right there. It looks halfway decent. This one's shot. But that's something I need to purchase too, is a couple radiator hoses. That one is kind of cracked at the bottom. But yeah, this old engine here is going to come in handy. I got a, you know, an old generator there too. I do not have a starter for it. But you can see the setup I have for, it's all froze, for your starter. This again, I believe, was off of a car. I did take the bolt out of here and took a look at it, and so there's your clutch fork. And just to give that, I was looking at that for reference. But anyway, this is coming in very handy. And so, yeah, it's nice to see. See, I've got this apparatus right here. I'm just looking at that. That's for your carburetor, and I have that. I also purchased a 6-volt fuel pump. So when I get my line run from my fuel tank to the engine, from here up to the front, I believe I'm going to put somewhere in this vicinity that fuel pump, or maybe up there closer to the battery, so I don't have to run wires so far. But anyway, yeah, that will, I'm going to do that to kind of draw the fuel up to the pump. I don't know how good that pump is. I bought this new old stock off of eBay years ago, and so hopefully it works. But anyway, that's where we're at. So I just thought I'd let you all know that it's been a couple weeks now since I shot any video. But that's where we're at. So thanks for following along and watching, and I'll bring you back when we get a few more things done, and we will eventually have a good video, live video. Well, it won't be live, but it'll be in action video, I should say, of me starting that engine. And that is the goal I've been looking for quite a while. So stay tuned. We'll bring you back. Yeah, I didn't video that either. After I put the engine in, I wanted to see if I could get oil pumped up into my valve covers, and I did. I don't think I had that on my other, or not my valve cover, my tappet setup. My valve's up there. It goes up into that, and it goes out and feeds oil to them. So I wanted to stick a device down inside to the oil pump and pump it, and I think I did video that. Anyway, when I was doing that, this was unplugged, and so I started squirting oil all over the floor. I lost about a quart of brand new oil, so before I realized what was going on. So we plugged that up, and yeah, we're good. Anyway, that's all we got, people. I appreciate y'all watching, and thank you for those new subscribers, and mention it to your friends. Anybody that's doing something like this or interested in this type of videos, please mention it so that we can pass the word on and hopefully help somebody else if they're in a situation like this. And maybe I can give you some answers or not. So thanks for watching. See you the next time.